Greetings and salutations again, fellow American Horror Story fans. This is the Elvis Man coming at you with my lovely future wife, Miss Melody Patton. Thankfully, this week we have got our camera situation all worked out where I am not hogging the whole screen on you. But let's not talk too much about me and our mistakes thus far. Let's move on to what we really came here for, which is episode 2 of American Horror Story, My Roanoke Nightmare. We are picking up with Sarah Paulson, who is being told the story by Lily Rabe as Mrs. Shelby Miller, and she's kind of lost in the woods after she came booking out of there because the house has scared the hell out of her. Now we caught her, seeing the people that were like missing the upper half of their skulls, and we're seeing creepy chicks with like antlers, and we're hearing this creepy lady, Kathy Bates, singing out this ritual and hammering pigtails on this dude who's up against this wooden beam of some sort, and we just see Shelby running through the woods, and she's scared shitless. But anyways, we see her kind of just take notice of where she is, and she's finally alone anyway. She's got her flashlight, and she's looking around, scared as hell. But she ends up actually finding her way back around to this exact same ritual where she's seeing the dude that got the pigtail nailed to his ass, and now they're talking about how he's just a disgusting pig of a person. He apparently had been stealing something from them, like food or provisions, and so they basically label him a pig. So she brings out this hollowed pig's head, which kind of is really cool for us American Horror Story fans with Kathy Bates, because we could think back on seeing her as that demonic racist woman, Delphine Lalaurie, when she put the boar's head on that one slave, Sebastian. But we're seeing this dude, and he's got this pig's head on him, and it looks like they are about to baste him, roast him, and call it a night on this cat. They put him over the flames, and the next thing we know, the dude is literally being burned up. And who do we see in the trees watching the whole thing, Miss Melody?
This would be Miss Shelby. She has found herself in the middle of nowhere, and previously she could not find this place, and then she found it again. So there it is, and she is running through the woods, scared as hell, and oh, who is it? It's Lee. She's come to save her because no one has believed her this far. So
runs out of the woods, and out of nowhere she finally finds the road, almost gets hit by Lee's car. And so they haul her off to the hospital because she faints right there on the spot. So anyways, the cops immediately are called, and they, of course, tell them this most insane story that anybody could hear about rituals and guys getting burned alive with pigs' heads on, and the cops think she's on like hallucinogens, but she's clean, nothing on her. So chalk another one up for the cops to not really believe in these guys, and probably not going to come to their aid much more if they keep feeding them this line of shit.
Plus, they really don't want to believe them in the first place because they're good old boys out in the middle of nowhere. And, there could be a theory that no doubt they've probably been called to that house before, and they may know all about what's going on and just choose to ignore it. Maybe they're in agreement with the hillbilly rednecks that want the property, that they won't say anything about it. Who knows? Maybe we'll find out.
It's true. They still think, Shelby definitely is still set on the idea that it's these crazy hillbilly dudes that are still effing with them. They're the ones that put up those dolls in their house in the first episode, and they're the ones that they think are causing like the weird pig noises and stuff. I mean, and well, I don't know. She's still holding on to the fact in the hopes that it's actually them, because I mean, what else could it be? But anyway, so we get out of the hospital. Now we're back to seeing Lee, who is Matt's sister, being played by Angela Bassett, and she's basically talking about her daughter and coming to visit, and we end up actually seeing her daughter just kind of making herself comfy, playing jacks on the floor. I don't know, but this seems pretty modern to me. I don't know how many kids out there still play jacks, but I really didn't believe that little bit right there. I mean, yeah, we could make a place our own, but I mean, this gigantic old school house, we're going to play jacks.
I don't think they really had an Xbox though. So, and she's like,
Well, I'm saying
what,
this is more
7?
modern. You would think that there would be like cell phones or iPads or something, you know, I mean, all caught up in this technology era, but
Doesn't this take place in about 1997 though? Isn't that the time frame?
no, I think this one's actually a little bit more modern. We're kind of getting mystified by time frames in this, but I think that they actually did mention something about time in this, but we'll get to that actually a little bit later on. So, but so like I said, Lee's daughter comes to visit, and her husband Mason, he's still not very happy with her. He's the ex-husband. He's the one who's got the primary custody because of Lee's drug problem from the first episode. We saw all that stuff, but Shelby is kind of still hesitant about having Lee around, and of course, with all the craziness that happened at the end of the last episode. But like we were saying before, Lee's daughter, Flora, she's actually gotten real comfortable being in the house. And when she comes back after going to get something from the kitchen, she notices that she's missing, and she's kind of like hiding somewhere. So Lee's going to look around the house for her, and she sees Flora standing next to the basement stairwell, like staring down into a dark staircase, and says she's talking to Priscilla. There ain't nobody there, and she thinks that it's because of the divorce that the kids make up, you know, make up friends, make believe people, and that's pretty much it. So she just kind of dismisses, but she still hates herself for it because she believes it's all her fault because she's the one who broke up the marriage from the drug problem. But
Supposedly she thinks that maybe her child is making it up as a coping mechanism because I guess she's an only child. And then they get into this conversation where Lee is speaking with her child, and she was like, well, who are you talking to? What's going on? She's like, oh, I was talking to Priscilla. And she was like, well, she wants me to make a bonnet for her. Why? Oh, to help her. Why? Because she wants the blood to go away. Oh, that's great. That's great.
That's not creepy to hear. Kids talking to mysterious friends, but must be some psychotic mysterious friends. We're talking like exorcist kind of friends at this point now.
Imaginary friends, one thing. Psychotic, hey, please save me from the blood. That's another chapter you don't want to get into with your child.
Well, speaking of bonnets too, that's when Lee hears the glass crash in, and then she goes over and sees like this little vase of her flowers just kind of hanging down there. And there's like this old school, like early colonial bonnet just chilling there, and she's got this crazy kind of scared look on her face there, like, well, wait a minute, we were just talking about bonnets, and now we see this thing come crashing through the window. But they're kind of planting these little seeds of doubt. Whatever it is that's messing with them, or whoever it is messing with them, is starting off kind of light, though. I think it's going to get a whole lot worse. A whole lot worse. Yeah. Yeah. We wouldn't expect anything less from Ryan Murphy. He's the man. So, but now we're seeing Shelby and Matt hanging out upstairs in the bed, talking about things, and still being nervous, and the fact that they got all this money tied up in this house, and there's really not much they can do. There's really little they can do. And she's kind of getting tougher though about it. She's been marinated in the fear, I guess you could say. So now she's not as scared, but she's a little more prepped, a little more angry about things. And
she feels like she's been bullied, and it's almost like going back to Murder House. They sank all of their life savings into this house, and now she doesn't want some locals just to run them out because they want the land. She feels like they should have the right to be there, and she wants to fight them. And she's been bullied long enough. So, and she seems like a tough lady. And she's going to try to fight whatever it is that's trying to scare them or cause harm to them.
Well, at least now she's got the guts to get up and go and take on these people. She actually awakens to the same pig noises yet again. Matt's like, where are you going? She grabs the bat. They go taking off into the forest. And, of course, they're actually together this time, thank God. And they're looking around. They're looking around for now.
For now.
And she's kind of...
Number one, you have to get separated. You have to. You got to lose each other. And what happens?
She's got the anger/fear adrenaline thing going right now, so she's kind of ballsy and getting tough. So she's running out into the forest, and of course, we're saying, stick together, stick together. We know it's going to happen. And what do you know? Matt turns around again, and she's gone. It's kind of like
at this point, I was yelling at the TV, hold hands, stick together, don't separate. What do? Kind of tropey. That's my only kind of, thing about it. Them getting separated. You kind of expect it, but you don't really expect the next couple of scenes. But they're going through the woods. They're looking for each other. Matt Shelby. And, they come upon a clearing.
Well, Matt is the one that actually hears the pig noise getting closer, and of course, he looks around, and out of nowhere, there's this gigantic big pot-bellied pig that comes running it out. So,
oh yeah,
I guess. Well, I was hoping for a piggy man kind of thing, but I guess we're gonna have to settle for the 200-pound porker.
It's foreshadowing, though. It's really good foreshadowing. I mean, have you ever seen a wild boar out in the middle of the woods? I have. It's terrifying. It's bigger than you are. It will kill you.
I don't know if it was wild, but well, anyways, we see Sarah Paulson, Shelby, finally come across the clearing where she can kind of get her bearings. She sees the light, and of course, she's thinking maybe it's another ritual. She comes upon it, and thankfully, Matt finally finds her, so they're together, and he's finally seeing this stuff too. He's looking at this like big burning effigy with a pig's head at the top on a spike. And it's got a bunch of pigtails and entrails and all kinds of other meat hanging from it, just cooking in the fire. But it like literally is some creepy shit, man. I mean, even Matt's like, the burning crosses is one thing, but this was something like, wow.
Some kind of barbecue.
No, he gets pissed. He goes over and starts beating the thing down with his own bat. And he's like, what the hell with this? Yeah, F racism.
They think it's for them, but I don't think that was for them. I think that was a separate occasion where Kathy Bates and her minions or whoever, whatever they are out in the woods doing their thing, sacrificing this guy that did them wrong, and they happened upon it.
Seriously, creepy stuff. Well, at least this time they see it together. They call the cops. It's like one of them stays there to make sure it doesn't disappear like everything else that keeps disappearing when the cops show up, and they actually see it this time. So finally, Shelby just lets it loose. She's like, yes, this is what's been going on. You guys are idiots. You should have been helping us the entire freaking time. What the hell's wrong with you? But the cops are finally listening. They're a little bit worried because they realize they have kind of effed up, that she has been telling the truth, and what the hell? Need to get stuff done. Protecting Sarah.
Do your job.
Seriously. But anyways, here we go again. Nighttime. They think they're safe now. Matt wakes up. Shelby's asleep. He hears a phone ringing downstairs, like one of those old school bell phones, those most ridiculously painful to the brain, loud, obnoxious house phones.
You hate those. The other night, you're like, I hate those phones so much.
The only time I ever liked them is when I came across that scene from Boiler Room, but let's not go there. But anyways, Matt gets downstairs. He picks up the phone, and there's this voice that says, please, they're hurting me. And so he looks down actually at the floor, and he sees the tip of the phone cord. It's not even plugged in. The thing's been ringing. It's not even plugged in, and there's this voice. And then he hears the voice again outside of the phone. He looks around the corner, and he starts walking around the hallway, and he comes across this nurse looking over a hospice bed of an old woman. And she's like saying, no, I don't want to take it. And so the other nurse comes in. She's like, is there a problem? And the one says, she doesn't want to take her medicine. She's like, is that right? And she's like, it hurts. Turns around, opens up this lockbox, pulls out this nickel-plated revolver. You've been warned, and just caps her right there. Cherry freaking pie all over the damn wall, man.
Merch.
And they just can't get enough of it. They love it. It's like some seriously sadistic stuff. And Matt's just standing there watching this whole freaking thing unfold. And he's one of them go over and spray paint this large red M on the wall. M is for Margaret. But they start laughing hysterically. Matt scares shitless at this point. He turns around, he hauls ass out, goes for the cops that are supposed to be parked outside of his door. The cops actually gave him the 24-hour detail after his wife really gave it to him. So Lee wakes up in this kind of stir crazy stuff that's going on downstairs. She looks outside and she sees Matt like beating on the cop's window. There's something in the house. There's someone in the house. And he's like, how the hell
The
does
cop that is supposed to be on guard is outside asleep. So good job to the cops. So if anything did happen outside, if an intruder got in, that's going to raise doubt that they had really seen anything. So they're still maybe thinking at this point, maybe it's just a couple of people that broke in. They have no reason to not believe that it's something supernatural at this point. So they go in with the officer, and he's looking around, questioning them. Of course, there's nothing there when he actually gets to the area where Matt says, hey, I saw a bed, I saw a lady, I saw a couple of nurses. There's nothing there. And they look crazy once again.
Exactly. And the cop's looking around. He sees nothing. They actually go into the room where Matt literally saw this old woman get, frontal lobe straight through the back. And there's nothing there. Just wallpaper and room and nothing. He's just like, what the hell just happened? And you got to admit, though, I mean, if they were up there asleep and they just somehow, these two nurses managed to creep in and sneak all that equipment in that hospice bed and this old
set up
woman,
a hospital bed and hook up some IVs.
It's like one of the most ridiculous, elaborate schemes you could ever pull to try and screw with someone. I mean, I could expect that if I had a best friend that was in Hollywood special effects that wanted to scare the shit out of me. He'd come to my house and have somebody get their head blown off or something. Now that'd be believable. But that was
not in literally nowhere in Roanoke. Probably not going to happen. But they're hoping that that's what it was, because who wants to believe that there's some supernatural craziness going on in your house and you can't escape because you don't have any money, because all the money is tied up in your house. So they're hanging on to every little tiny bit of sanity that they have left. But
well, speaking on the hanging on of sanity, we see Mason come back to get his daughter Flora, and she's playing another hide and seek game. So they're looking around the house all over the place for her, and he's kind of just barely hanging on with Lee at this point as it is, and they finally get to her. She's like hiding way upstairs in like this strange kind of cubby broom closet thing, like something you would see underneath a staircase almost, like real tiny.
It's like a Harry Potter closet. That's Harry Potter's room.
Okay, I can dig exactly it. But yes. Been a long time, but yes, I do remember that now. So she opens it up, and then the daughter's looking at her. She's like, where'd she go? And the mother's like, who? She's like, Priscilla, that same imaginary friend, according to her mom, that she was talking to in the dark basement stairwell there. And she was like offering her her doll. And she asked, well, why would you give her your doll? She says, so that they won't kill us. And save me.
They're going to kill all of you, and they're going to save me for last.
That's exactly what she said, yes. Now, let's face it. That's some creepy shit.
I thought that was awesome. That was great.
We see Mason, the father, haul ass out of there. He's like, what the fucking hell have you been telling our daughter? And so he's like, to hell with this. I'm taking her. I'm calling the judge. Yeah.
Can't blame the guy, really.
That's
some really some weird things, but not everybody's coming to murder me and you. And she's had a history of drug problems, so obviously he's very concerned. He was concerned in the first place. This was like her very, very last chance to spend any time with her daughter. Anytime. And because of reasons outside of what she could control, that chance is gone. Completely gone.
Right.
So she's devastated.
Well, we see the devastation happen really hard on Lee when she basically knows that she's probably going to lose her daughter. So she just says, what the hell with it? I'm going to jump off the wagon regardless. Next time we see her, she's like hammered, falling on the floor. And Matt and Shelby come in trying to look at her like, what are you doing? And they look up and they see like a half a dozen kitchen knives like stuck straight into the ceiling. Like I'm talking like surgical straight up into the ceiling. Like how in the hell do you get knives
Have you
like
ever
that.
been so drunk and so angry that you decided to throw all of your kitchen knives into the ceiling? I don't think I've been that drunk or that angry.
No, I don't think I've done anything that wild. I think mostly dudes, if they want to try and let loose some anger at that exact moment, they usually look for a solid surface to lay into. But I will admit that is something that is not a very wise decision. If you've ever known anybody who boxes before, you know the boxer's most common injury is this bone right here along your pinky. Yeah, that's not a pleasant vibe. But anyways,
Honestly, if you hit with your pinky, you're doing it wrong because that's how you break your wrist.
well, we're not talking about boxing. We're talking about American Horror Story. So let's go back
We can
to,
talk about both.
well, Matt puts down his sister after, realized she's pretty hammered. She needs to lay down. He hears his wife, Shelby, call him downstairs, and she says, "Do you see her?" And he walks up, and she never lets her eyes off her for a second. And Matt does see this kind of garbed image in a cloak, like old school clothes again. I mean, you're talking colonial clothes here. And of course, they go outside to try and find her, and she's gone. But right where she's standing, they end up finding this, like a bunker.
The hatch from Lost.
No.
It's a cellar. No. Most houses had an outdoor cellar somewhere to store canned goods and provisions.
It's not really a cellar, though. It's kind of more like a bomb shelter or like a hatch, like from Lost in a way, yes. Because it leads straight down into like a different habitat area. So we go back to... It's
cooler underground, so people normally had, these cellars to keep food and extra storage. So they go down there. And then it cuts to another scene where we go back to Lee, and she's back in the house, and she gets up, she's wandering around, she's still pretty hungover.
But what stirred her awake? She felt like there was something there, and she was startled awake by that, even though she was drunk. I guess the old cop senses are still kicking.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
The camera pans down, and we see these two like lady figures in like old school nurses' clothing, and then they're just gone. But when Lee's out there looking around, trying to figure stuff out, she rounds the corner and sees like a half a dozen pigtails nailed to the wall bloody, and they're like shaking back and forth. And she backs up to the mirror, turns and looks at her reflection, and boom, there's a pig dude, like a pig minotaur, a pigatar, just like there in the reflection. She's scared shitless, backs up against the wall. There's nothing there. Turns around, it's gone. We're talking like some serious like poltergeist haunting, crazy nightmarish shit here. So
is it DTs or the devil that make you shake that way?
Well, in that one, I'm going to go.
Anyway, because she's an alcoholic, and well, she used to be an alcoholic, and now she fell off the wagon. So maybe she's thinking, since she overdid it, that might be contributing to her hallucination. But I don't know, seeing a piggy man out of nowhere, that's pretty scary.
It would have freaked me the hell out, but
yeah.
Of course, that's where the cutscene comes in. We don't see anything else. It always has to end on a good scare. So then we see Matt and Shelby back down in this bunker thing again. And that's where they discover this video camera with a videotape. So they bring it back into the house. They put it in the TV. And, of course, this is where we see Dennis O'Hare. And if anybody watched last season, Dennis O'Hare, he really, really brought it to the table, man. He was
That guy
awesome.
is great. He's one of the best parts of American Horror Story in all the seasons that he is, except for Coven. He was really, really creepy in Coven, but he was still awesome.
And Murder House. But let's face it, Dennis O'Hare has that gift. He's the character you love to hate. But in this one, he's scared shitless, and he's down in this bunker, and he's videotaping himself. He's actually the same guy that we saw in the videotape in the first one when they went downstairs and there was this crazy VHS tape playing.
Right.
And we actually find out that his name is Dr. Elias. But let's not get too far ahead on that, actually. He's basically scared shitless talking about angry spirits that want to kill him. And he's an author that tells a story about it's a hospice that nurses Jesus.
These nurses supposedly they opened up they had the house, they got the house, and they opened the house up for people with elderly parents or, you know, people that they didn't want to care for anymore. They were pretty much on death's door. They in a very sensitive manner, they said, hey, you got someone you don't want to take care of anymore. You know they're going to die soon. Bring them to us. We'll take care of them till their last days. So he actually moved to that house. Dr. Elias Cunningham is his name. He moved to that house to document and kind of write a, as they say on the show, a helter-skelter type documentary on the nurses and what had happened to all those poor people that they were taking care of in that house. And that's why he was there.
We find out their names are Miranda and Bridget. They're actually sisters, and they are actually known. Exactly. But he was researching them when he actually went to the house, and I believe he actually drops the date there, which October was it 11th, 1997, and this is actually his last video entry, and he'd actually been at the house researching about these two girls, and that's when we really start to see them go on this crazy murderous escapade. And the family start to sign off these elderly parents that they're basically looking to get rid of. And we find out that the reason that they chose these specific people to kill were because of the letters in their first name. They basically were killing them off just because of the letter of their first name, because they had their favorite word in mind when they wanted to do it. And we see them start spray painting these letters on the wall, just like Matt saw inside the house. And they actually start going more and more. We see him poisoning people, shoving cloths into their mouths and suffocating them. And of course, we saw that one lady get the bullet in the head. And the word finally starts to take shape. And of course, we know it as murder.
Murd. They didn't finish.
Murd. They didn't get to finish,
though.
though.
Stop them. Then we come back to the video scene, and Shelby and Matt, they kind of realize, he realizes, because that is what he envisioned or hallucinated that night, that, you know, the cops came. He saw the nurses kill that lady and spray paint the M on the wall. And he said, hey, you know, this is kind of familiar, a lot familiar. So he wants to go investigate that scene because he recognizes that within their own house.
They're starting to get really, really nervous, and Matt especially, because Dr. Elias mentions the word being spray painted on the wall. And he also starts talking about how the cops finally got called because there was actually one family that did get concerned, and they didn't hear anybody answer the phone for like 3 weeks. And they go and they find this bloody murderous rampage, and they had painted the word on the wall, murder, minus the R at the end, of course, because apparently they didn't finish. And they just the bodies of all their victims. And no matter how many times they tried to fix up the house and spray paint that area or paint over it, whatever it was, the letters kept seeping through in blood. And no matter what they did, they just couldn't cover it up. And so they came up with the idea of actually using wallpaper, which inevitably, of course, covered it up. But Matt, remembering that whole scene that he imagined that night when the phone rang and it wasn't even plugged in, he saw that old woman get shot in the head. He goes back into that same room and he peels down the wallpaper at some very great ease, I might add. I mean, let's face it, that wallpaper must not have been on there pretty long. So he pulls it off and boom, there's the freaking word, M-U-R-D, on the wall still. Word.
Right there.
And that's where shit gets really real. They're like, okay, this guy who's talking on the video is really, he knows what he's talking about. So they haul ass back down there.
Might be crazy, but he knows what he's talking about.
So they go back, and they're looking at Dennis, and he's really panicky at this point. Dr. Elias, of course. And he says, I haven't been in the house in days. I've been here for 2 months, but I'm going back in. I have to know. I have to find this thing that is inside there. But
so he goes back at nighttime in the dark with a little bitty flashlight. Why would you? I would go at noon open up all the windows. I mean, not that an evil entity would necessarily be detracted from messing with you in the middle of the day, but it makes your chances a little bit better. So here he goes. And he's documenting this, and he's got great night vision on his camera. And at this point, honestly, this was very tense for me. And I don't get, really tense with shows or movies. I mean, I've seen all the Hollywood tropes, but this really drew me in. And I'm happy to say that I really enjoyed this little bit where he's wandering through the dark, and you don't know what happens, and they're watching the video. This part was good. This part was.
It's like Blair Witch, because it was 97 that this happened. So, well, maybe it was right after Blair Witch. Who knows? But anyways, we see him, and he's looking around, and he ends up actually panning his camera to a mirror. Kind of like, I don't know what's going on with these mirrors, but I think the mirrors are the way that they see the ghosts or something, because Lee saw the pig man in that one earlier on. So he's looking, and he's reaching out to this mirror, and out of nowhere, of course, something comes and grabs him, and the camera blinks off. So Shelby and Matt are scared shitless again. And they turn around after they come out of the room where they're watching the TV, and the front door opens up, and what do you see in the door? A bloody hatchet stuck into it.
No. That was a meat cleaver. It wasn't a hatchet like an axe. It was a
curved.
It was a meat cleaver.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I know my knives, but. Yeah. So, and it had blood on it, and it was wedged in a pretty solid door. Don't know what the door is made out of. It could be oak, could be pine. Probably not pine, but it was wedged in there. So someone with great force had to drive that thing in with blood on it. So super scary.
So at this point, they're like, let's do whatever we can to get out of this freaking place. Okay. So they call the bank. They're like, we need to get out from under this house. We got to go. We can't stay here. We need our money back. And, of course, the auctioneer guy that represents the bank comes in. He's like, well, tough shit. You bought it in an auction. Auctions are like this. You buy it how it stands. So
bought it as is. They did buy it on a whim. They didn't go through a contract, so this can't be much of a surprise. I mean, did you guys really think that they were going to get their money back and move away to Ohio and happily ever after? No. So of course they're up shit creek without their paddle. So again, it's reinforced that Shelby is probably going to be Miss Badass. Well, we have to fight, and I love you so much. We're going to stay here, but we're kind of screwed. What do we do?
So anyways, they're done with Mr. Banker auctioneer guy, and he takes off, and they're standing there. They're like, what exactly are we going to do? Maybe we can sell it to the rednecks that keep torturing us, they say. Okay, well, anyways. So they're standing there, and out of nowhere, here comes Lee. And after Mason took Flora away, there was no way in hell she was ever coming back to that house. Guess who's in the back seat of the car? Flora. And Matt and Shelby are standing there like, what the hell did you just do? Basically.
Like, come on. Why?
And what's crazy about it is that she used to be a cop, so she knows exactly what she did, but she feels that she's entitled because she's her mother. But her irresponsibility lost her some of those privileges. So she goes and she steals her daughter and takes her to the house and says, well, we ain't got nothing to talk about.
I think she's just, at this point, really desperate because she knows what she saw. It maybe could have been an after effect of the alcohol, but probably not. I mean, everyone's been hungover. You don't see piggy tails on the wall when you're hungover. So I think out of desperation, and she was so frightened that she just really wanted to see her daughter by any means. So she goes and grabs her, brings her to the house.
Well, that was not a good idea, because in all honesty, Miss Former Cop here has probably got an Amber Alert out on her right now. So cell phones across America are ringing and playing her tune right now. But Matt comes in after Shelby takes Flora into the living room to work on her homework while Matt talks to his sister, and he's telling her, I don't really think you quite grasp what it is that you've just done. You can go to prison for this. This is a felony. You've basically kidnapped your own child. and you have caused much more damage than you can ever cure doing this. All Mason has to do is call the cops and say, my daughter is at this house, because obviously she's there. But
Lee probably more than likely does have a touch of crazy. It's not just the addiction, but it's probably just her coupled with a crazy house. Do you think maybe possibly the house does have an influence on her? I mean, in previous American Horror Stories, the house has influenced people to do certain things, so it might be in relation to that, but she also could just have a touch of crazy. Anything's possible at this point. We still don't know, so we'll see how that develops.
Well, we knew Mason was going to call, and he did. Of course, Shelby comes back into the room and says, I've been talking to Mason. Well, she was on the phone with Mason and says, don't worry, please don't call the cops. She's here. She's safe, whatever. And so he manages to hang up the phone without calling the police. And Shelby's like, okay, I calmed him down. And Lee thanks her for that, actually. So she tells her,
She's
like,
you need to. Diplomat in that respect. He could have ruined her life forever, but Shelby calmed him down. So they're good.
This little girl, he wanted to make sure that her mom was still in her life at least, so that's probably why he did that. But anyways, we cut to Flora in the living room, and she hears a child's laughter and looks out the living room window and sees this kid kind of spirit form almost kind of in the window. I don't know, maybe it was the window or maybe it was spirit form look, but it looked kind of creepy ghostish to me, and that she was kind of motioning her to come into the woods with her. And we see Flora looking out the window, and of course we assume she's going to go off. But Lee goes into the living room to say goodbye to her, because we know Mason's going to come and take her away, and she's probably not going to see her for a while. And of course, Flora's gone. So they look through the whole freaking house everywhere, thinking she's probably hiding again, playing her game. And of course, she's nowhere to be found. So they take off into the woods, because the door kind of creeps open, the front door. And so all of them are out there. Shelby, Matt, Lee, they're looking, yelling for Flora, and they can't find her anywhere. So Shelby's kind of looking through the bush, such as she hears something, and after a nice little Ryan Murphy quick scare, we see Cuba Gooding
get separated again. So of course someone runs out of the bushes.
And then we hear Lee screaming her full head off, and then Matt and Shelby run to her, and we see Lee looking like straight up, and up this massive freaking pine tree or whatever it may have been, a cypress, whatever it could have been. Like, we're talking like 50, 60 feet in the air. They see Flora's like sweater just kind of dangling there in the wind.
Just a sweater stuck in the top of a tree, a barren tree, looks dead, no leaves, no branches, just and that's the symbol of the show as well. My Roanoke Nightmare, and then there's the tree. But this tree didn't have branches. Do they correlate? Possibly.
Yeah,
I really think scary. Like, what the hell?
Well, they were probably just trying to make it seem extra scary, because let's face it, that tree was so freaking huge that it would take in anybody at least a good 15, 20 minutes, even if they were a professional climber, to get to the top of that thing. But the amount of time that passed from when she disappeared to them getting out of the forest, there's no way in hell anybody even remotely close to being normal could get up that high and place it there, even if she did come to abduct her daughter. And who would do such a thing? So they were coming up with. Even if she
threw off her sweater and a crazy gale wind came up, it would not be strong enough or quick enough to raise that sweater to the top of a 60-foot barren tree. There's no way physically possible that would happen. So, of course, supernatural. So, obviously, I think that our conclusion would be that Flora has gotten kidnapped by the Kathy Bates cult. By the Pigman. Not the Pigman cult, but the...
Or maybe it was whatever the malevolent spirit that is living in that house that Dennis O'Hare was talking about when he went back in and he got snatched. But... I mean, who knows?
Did not feel like maybe they're one and the same, like Kathy Bates' cult and
this is something this has been something that's kind of been lingering with me since I watched it, and then I saw Dennis O'Hare again. I mean, we heard Kathy Bates in the beginning when she was torching this guy, saying that he was stealing provisions and yada yada yada, and that they were going to burn him there or whatever it was. And when you get a close-up, quick look at this guy, it almost looks like Dennis O'Hare's character that they put the freaking pig head on and then roast. I mean, the beard was about right, and it did sound like him too. It's I don't know why.
We heard him scream from being burned before, and it sounded very familiar.
All right. Well, now that we're not trying to keep up with this show and try and go through it bit by bit, let's go back and touch base on a couple of things that we did not really dwell on too much. When Sarah Paulson comes across the Witcher group or the cult or whatever it is in the beginning, and they are burning that guy, we finally get our first glimpse of Lady Gaga. Gaga's the one that's this kind of creepy witch doctorish looking person with the weird little, like, almost like upside down chicken feet sticking out of her head. I didn't know it was her at first when I saw her. I was like, I never would have thought it. It was the eyes that finally gave it away. But we also actually see Wes Bentley here for the first time. He's kind of disguised and mixed in with the crowd. He doesn't even say a word. He just kind of notices this guy being put on the pyre as they burn him. But
and who's Wes Bentley?
Wes Bentley is the same dude that we saw as the Ten Commandments killer in Hotel, and he also played Edward Mordrake, who was the super demonic, two-faced guy that would come and claim freaks on Halloween. Edward Mordrake, yes, that was him. But Wes has actually kind of done pretty well for himself coming into American Horror Story, but we've yet to really see him do anything major in this season yet. And we still have yet to see Evan Peters. We've still yet to see Matt Bomer. We really have no freaking idea what the hell Lady Gaga is doing in that, but I'm guessing she's some kind of creepy witch doctor-ish, freakish chick. I don't know, but
it almost seems like a minion. Like Kathy Bates is the leader of this ritualistic cult type. Who knows? But whatever it is, Lady Gaga's character is definitely taking orders from Kathy Bates's character, so maybe we'll actually get to see how villainous she can be in this role, and maybe we'll see her get into some murder and some killing and some really brutal and gory stuff. I would love to see Lady Gaga portray a character that would just go out and, you know, see some bloodshed. I think that would be great.
Well, we did really enjoy Lady Gaga as the Countess in last season. I know that. I thought she really hit a home run for her first time through American Horror Story. And not only that, she was the main character. I mean, we're not talking like a supporting actor. She was like the thing. After Freak Show ended and Jessica Lange took her leave from American Horror Story, we were wondering who was going to take on that, who pick up that torch and really carry that fill those shoes. And we even got a small little teaser, not like a month after Freak Show ended. We saw it. It was a weird black and white deal where Gaga was wearing this really huge black mask. She took it off and she's like, Hotel. And that kind of sucked too in a way, because the next year when we did it after Hotel, we didn't get to know anything about the new season at all. They made us sweat for like 10 months straight. Well, 9.5, I guess. But we didn't have any idea.
And all those bogus trailers, like, you guys spent a lot of money trying to throw us off, but you know what? It sucked us all in. And I think the really cool thing about My Roanoke Nightmare regarding Lady Gaga and Hotel, she was very elegant and very stoic. And I love that, because that's almost like how she's been portrayed thus far in media, in her videos and her songs. But now you see her as this tribal, dirty, archaic kind of just, I don't even know what yet, but she's definitely raw. She's definitely got a lot of like animal qualities that we can see thus far. And I think it's going to be a challenging role for her. And I'm very interested in seeing her character develop. I said, I'm very interested if she becomes she's got to become some kind of villain, or I'm excited. I'm excited for her.
Well, I think that they're going to explore a more animalistic side of Lady Gaga in this one. I think you're right about that. She was very elegant in the last one in Hotel, and I think this season they're going to kind of experiment with her and see where she can go. I mean, when you saw her watching that ritual, and she was kind of creeping down next to Kathy Bates, and she's like just like
oh, she loved it. She was into it.
Street sadist.
Just another normal Wednesday night around the campfire with Kathy Bates.
Jesus. But another thing, it seems how we're touching base on a couple of other things. When they went down into this bomb shelter fallout hatch thing, whatever we're going to call it, you got to admit, when they first went in and they saw those cans and glass mason jars and everything on the right, anybody who's a horror story fan and really pays attention knows that looked straight up like the basement of Murder House. I mean, that's the vibe I got. I mean, even when we first saw the first episode, we saw those two nurses come strolling by. It was the nurses that we're talking about in this episode, of course, but we all immediately thought of the nurses from Murder House. But
yes.
Cool stuff, man. They're really starting to touch base on this, and there's been so many rumors flying out there that this is going to be the season that ties all of them together, which I think is going to be one fucking hell of a challenge. But if they can do it, then I applaud Brian Murphy on that. I mean, we've already seen them touch base with other things. They dropped subtle hints in Coven. They dropped a hint in Freak Show. And they also did it again in Hotel. But we're going to go ahead and recap all that stuff when we come back after My Roanoke Nightmare. We got so much to talk about in American Horror Story.
Elvis, can I drop a little spoiler that I saw on, I don't know what forum I was reading today. But speaking of connecting all the seasons, I actually read an article today that says that in this season we're going to we're going to learn more about the Mott family, Andy Mott from Freak Show. We're going to learn backstory for the Mott family. So that is one way that this season is going to connect to Freak Show. And I read that. I was like, no shit, really? Because Andy Mott, that asshole. But maybe it'll be interesting. More than likely it'll be interesting. Have you read that? Have you heard of that yet?
No. Yeah. But we know already the Mott family is totally freaking crazy. They're inbred crazy kind of people that would like sleep with their sisters or brothers or whatever it was that they had going on. But that's kind of why their family is so effing cuckoo to begin with. But that's for people that want to watch Freak Show, which is actually available on Netflix right now. I am not getting endorsed by Netflix, but I'll tell you this. If you do want to catch up on the show, that's where you want to go. They usually always have American Horror Story on Netflix. They have not actually dropped Hotel yet, but they're bound to do it pretty soon. They have to be doing it pretty soon because it's about to drop the Blu-ray, I think, if it hasn't already. But it's got to be added to the collection still. But we're not going to get too crazy here. But I personally, I'm wearing my Evan Peters tribute shirt tonight. But I really am hoping to see what the hell they're going to do with Evan in the next episode. I'm starting to wonder. I'm getting a little irritated because he, to me, is like the guy who really kept American Horror Story going.
Where's Evan Peters? Where?
I don't know, but that's my opinion. I think he's awesome. Anything I've seen him in has always been good, whether it's been in Kick-Ass or Quicksilver from X-Men, or he was in the Lazarus Project. He's always been in good flicks, and his roles are always pretty solid. So.
Or the first season of American Horror Story, which was my favorite season. I'm going to say that every show we do. That was my favorite season.
He's still the teen heartthrob as Tate from Murder House, absolutely. But I still liked him as Kit from Asylum. He was always my favorite. So, but we're not going to go on too much longer here. We've almost tied up our full hour here on The Creep. We've enjoyed recapping American Horror Story, My Roanoke Nightmare, Episode 2. It's been great because we finally got to see a little bit more exposure from characters that we were really edging to see how they were going to appear, like Lady Gaga, for instance. And now we know that there's some mystery and some child abduction going on and some serious ghost action happening. And there's so many pig references now that if we don't see
what?
Man,
I was right about Piggy Man. I said from the beginning, there's Piggy Man. There's going to be a Piggy Man. Ever since I saw that little preview with the crib and it said pig, I was like, Piggy Man. I called it. I got a gloat. Just just a little bit. Piggy Man.
You know, it's crazy. They don't even really call that the pig reference. They call that the Rosemary's Baby reference, what I thought was funny. But anyways, this is the Elvis Man, courtesy of Monkey Caviar. We're going to be signing off here tonight with my lovely future Miss Melody Patton here. We'll be doing this again next Thursday, 9 p.m. If you want to tune in, we'll be more than happy to discuss and let you know how we feel exactly what Ryan Murphy is doing and how he is running this American Horror Story franchise. But anyways, we love you guys. Thanks for tuning in. We'll get you next week.
Bye. Thank you for watching.